All right, Andy, it's officially I put the nail in the coffin for the 2025-2026 holiday season. All my decorations are down now, Andy.
How
So
do you feel about that, Dave? Do you feel saddened by it? Do you get excited about it? Like, where does that leave you?
last week I took down the outside lights, but it still felt a little too early for the inside
Yeah,
lights, I think.
yeah,
And then this week felt right. It felt right to take down all the inside decorations. We've had warmer weather here, and it just didn't feel like the holidays anymore. Now it's going to be cold this week again, but it, it- you know, it was it all every year it just kind of feels right. So it
yeah.
felt right. So I
Well,
felt good.
good. Well, good. Well, congratulations. Now you can move forward clean and ready for the new year.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready to get going, and it was nice because I had football on this weekend, and so I could be watching football while I'm taking things down.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're good. I was happy with it. So
I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you were happy. The listeners are happy that you were happy.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of crazy shit this weekend as always, Andy. And
Yeah,
so why don't we go ahead and get started? Let's talk. Let's start with football. That I'll start with an enjoyable
yeah.
topic.
Let's do the easy first. Let's do the easy first.
Yeah, let's do football first, and then get into some other fucking lunacy over the weekend that happens. Okay, so initial impressions of the weekend. It was 5 games. We have one game tonight,
Yeah.
Steelers against the Texans. 5 games up into the last game last night. I thought they were all really thrilling games.
Yeah, I mean, exciting football, no doubt. I mean, the NFL delivered exciting matches. You had to watch the whole thing to know how it was going to turn out. I mean, it was a really well-written script, you know. I mean, it took to the last minute. You had exciting moments for all the teams. You had chances for teams that you thought maybe were going to win to take it. Then the other team would come back, and I mean, it came down to the end for all. I mean, Matthew Stafford going down the field and crushing the hearts and souls of the
I know.
poor Carolina Panthers. The Philadelphia Eagles just not quite being able to close out the 49ers, and the 49ers get the win with a great defensive show, and not much of a game between those two, really. Is kind of disappointing, but there was some great football, Dave. The NFL was fantastic.
All right, so let's go through each of the games real quickly. Just give me, like, let's just talk one storyline maybe or something out of those games. But let's start with the Panthers versus the Rams.
Yeah.
There's like a 10.5 point spread on this one, but the Panthers, they had a little shaky start, but they were ready to play and they had the ball. They were up in the fourth quarter and Matthew Stafford came down and put it in. But I feel like the Panthers should be pretty encouraged here, Andy.
Yeah, me too, Dave. I mean, look, this was a team that had low expectations, kind of stumbled into winning the division, but won the division, hosted a playoff game. It's been a while since they hosted a playoff game down in your neck of the woods. They had the Rams, who they beaten earlier in the season, and they put them against the ropes. I mean, it took probably this season's MVP, Matt Stafford, to really focus in, home in on his objective of the end zone, and as an MVP does, drive his team successfully to the end zone when it mattered the most in the closing moments of the game and deliver the win for Los Angeles. Great football from both teams. Panthers definitely overperformed in this game and I think really on the season, and a great indicator of where that team is going.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Puka Nakua, though, amazing. He's just amazing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay, that was the first game, and then the second game was the comeback of all comebacks, I think, for considering the context. The Bears were down a lot, 21-3 at halftime, and then I think 11 points or 12 points in the fourth quarter,
yeah.
and come back and stun with 25 points in the fourth quarter, the Green Bay Packers. And this is gonna become a rivalry. The coaches seem to hate each other. Fuck the Packers, I think is what the mantra was in the locker room afterwards. So Andy, thoughts on this one? Your division rivals. Caleb Williams had a really weak start, but good, strong end there.
Yeah,
Kind
I
of
mean,
like they've been doing all year, Andy.
all year, all cardiac bears, man. Their poor fans are go through so much with them. Look, I have to hate both teams by virtue of them being in the NFC North and beating up on my Lions, but they've both done a really good job this season. I thought the Packers were going to win the game. I was talking crap to Bears fans during the game, but as they've done so many times this season, the Bears don't give up and they find ways to win. And Caleb made some really nice throws downfield. They stole victory out of the Packers' hands. Hats off to the Chicago Bears. They have delivered also, like the teams you just mentioned, exciting football this season. They're fun to watch. So I mean, I have to hate them, but part of me is cheering for them because they're doing really good.
Yeah, I tell you, a lot of storylines will come out of this one but I think the Bears have a coach and a quarterback now to guide them into the coming years here. The question is will LaFleur still be the coach of Green Bay? I think it's a silly argument, but at the same time, is he's had some stumblers here. So
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere next season. I think that
yeah,
team, had some injuries. I think he's still on track. I will say this, early prediction for the new season. The Bears played off of a weak schedule this year. They played well, but they played off a weak schedule. They won't get very far in these playoffs. I don't think I might be
no, no.
eating that statement, but I don't think I get very far. But you're going to see a very difficult NFC North next year as well, as the Lions get a fourth place schedule, the Bears get a first place schedule, and you're going to see a lot of challenge in that division, just like we did this year, where there's going to be four potentially really good teams duking it out for the title. So we'll see what happens here, but a thriller in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, the Sunday games, Jaguars at the Bills. Ooh, Josh Allen just continues to do a lot with nothing. And we both thought the Jags were poised for a run here, and they shit the bed in the first game here, Andy. So, tough one for the Jags, but Bills continue to move on here.
They do. The Jags, like the Panthers, probably overperformed, and I think are showing that they really have potential to be a good team. Both those teams could come back much stronger next year and build off this season. So I don't think hope is lost in Duval. I think they did well, could do better next year. The Bills, look, the Bills, not unlike the Rams in a sense, their quarterback had to pull things together for them to win. The Bills, even more so. Buffalo cannot rely on Josh Allen and Josh Allen alone. He was getting killed for parts of that game. And so, like, their run, I think, also is limited because there's just not enough there besides Josh Allen. And one player in the NFL, no matter how good they are, it is really hard to carry a team through the entire playoffs and get to victory. So I think Buffalo's time is limited. But they won the game, send Jacksonville home. I was thinking we might be seeing a Jacksonville Eagles Super Bowl. That's definitely not in the cards. So hats off to the Bills. Great plays by Josh Allen, but they've really got to figure themselves out because that team has limited capacity without that dynamic quarterback.
Yep, there we go. Speaking of the Eagles, Andy, they pretty much played like they did all year. Lack of inspired football on the offensive side. Defense kept them in, but against the 49ers team that is playing with like second and third level players now, there's so many injuries. They went into Philadelphia and pulled it out, and a lot of questions are going to be raised about the future of the Eagles head coaching staff. What's the grace period on a coach that won the Super Bowl last year? I mean, but man, they soured very quickly in Philadelphia.
Yeah, so Nick Sirianni is fine. His record in the regular season and the playoffs is actually fantastic. I mean, like, there's no way you can fire Nick Sirianni, but Kevin Patullo, their offensive coordinator, I'd be amazed if that man has left the building yet, because I imagine Eagles fans are waiting outside to beat that man down like a pinata. The offense just does not get it done. Disastrous performance by A.J. Brown yesterday. Drop ball after drop ball. Dallas Goedert, fantastic, maybe the best tight end in the league. Don't know if he's going to be able to be retained by the Eagles next season because he's going to demand a massive salary, and he deserves it. He did great. Jalen Hurts didn't do too badly, really. The O-line did a pretty good job, I think, protecting him. Just the special players that have to make plays didn't make plays, and the offense really looked lackluster as they have all season. Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, has to be fired, even if they didn't think he deserved it. The fans demand it. Their offense sucks, and hats off against the Niners. Good defensive performance. Robert Saleh, back to the defensive coordinator, did a good job putting that team together, fighting against the Eagles, not letting them get plays that they needed in. And the Niners won. Niners didn't play a great game. Lost George Kittle tragically, probably for the first part of next year too. Wasn't a fantastic performance. I think the Niners also have limited potential here, but they got the win in Philly, sent the defending Super Bowl champions home. Now they get a rematch against the Seattle Seahawks, which should be an exciting game.
Should be a good one for sure. As the recap of the or a rematch of the last game of the regular season for the division title. So, okay, and then the last game of the night, Andy, was the Patriots beat the Chargers. A kind of a dud of a game.
Yeah.
Not very good on either side of the ball. But the Patriots did enough, and their defense shut down Justin Herbert, or Justin Herbert. However you want to pronounce his last name. I look. I think this is an overrated quarterback. He continues to do well, but his advanced metrics, and I use those in quotes, say he's one of the top quarterbacks ever. Just can't fucking win a playoff game though, Andy. And he should like the Patriots were beatable yesterday, and he looked like shit. So.
Yeah, and that's just the story of the Chargers year after year. Barely make the playoffs, just make the playoffs, go nowhere with a big time quarterback, no matter who's at the helm of the team. It's just an underperforming team. They've got to figure something out there. The NFL schedule makers knew what they were doing and made this the Sunday night game. I don't think most people cared. I don't think most people missed out. I was passively watching it, but I'll be honest, Dave. I was like, I'm not interested. I've already watched some good football today. I was reading a book for the most part, watching the score and thinking, man, that game sucks, and called it a night. So good job for the Patriots. Now they're getting the divisional round. We're going to see who's really a serious team and who got by on an easy schedule.
Yep. No, I'm excited about the games going today or next week, and then we have one game tonight, Buffalo, or I'm sorry, Pittsburgh hosting Houston. The winner of this game will play the Patriots next week, so should be an interesting one to watch. So we'll talk more about football later on this week, Andy, as we get into the next round, as you
Yeah.
mentioned. So we'll talk about that later. But let's shift our attention now to the other events of the weekend. And you forwarded me something late yesterday, a posting that the Federal Reserve chairman felt like he had to make.
Yeah.
On it was posted on YouTube is where you sent it to me, but I'm sure it was posted other places too. But Jerome Powell felt like he had to go and post this video because the Department of Justice has served the Federal Reserve subpoenas related to the construction of the Federal Reserve building. I find this ironic
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like think about what's happening at the White House
Yep.
with this ballroom, and we're going to talk about cost overruns, which by the way, the ballroom is now $300 million. It's gone up. They have no clear designs that really make a whole lot of sense. They are violating all sorts of the laws, even doing this in the first place. And they're going to go after the Federal Reserve chairman here, Andy. Now, there was a NBC News reported this morning that they had a conversation with President Trump because he responds to all sorts of, I guess if you have Trump's phone number, you can call him anytime and he'll answer. But he answered and said he didn't know anything about this, Andy. And
Nothing. Yeah.
this is his Department of Justice, and but Jerome Powell he's terrible at his job.
Yeah.
So this is just another attempt, and not very veiled. Not they're not hiding behind anything. They're being pretty much out in the open. They want this guy gone. They want the president to be able to dictate financial policy, which is a colossal mistake, but it is what it is here, Andy.
Yeah, this is the federal government, Dave, doing what it's been doing in so many places, from government to law enforcement to international politics to the media to the Federal Reserve, trying to intimidate and bully leaders who are trying to do their job in the interest of the United States of America or their state or their country or their clients, trying to bully them into behavior that the president wants to see. He's headed out for Jerome Powell because Mr. Powell would not do what the president wanted him to do. And he's been wanting to replace him the whole time. He's been pressuring him to resign the whole time. We see continued intimidation tactics, as Jerome Powell called out in the video yesterday. Dave, this follows a series of consistent bullying behavior and bullshit from the White House. We saw this maybe most visibly with the New York State Attorney General Tish James as the administration tried to pressure her with bullshit lawsuits that got thrown out time and time and time again, right? But they try and pressure and intimidate, and they're trying to do it here again. We've seen what happens when people cave and give in. The administration takes everything they can, manipulates reality, and uses it as another way for the president to advance his personal beliefs and interests. And we've seen that when people stand up and push back, while it sometimes is difficult and sometimes the courts don't go the way that people would want, a lot of times these pressure cases fall apart because there's nothing behind them. And so I'm glad to see some leadership as the Federal Trade Commission stands up and says, we're not going to just cave in and give in to this bullying administration who's again trying to cross lines of decency, of normality in these United States, and trying to act as if the president is a king and can do whatever he wants and can force everybody to comply with his whims and desires. So hats off. I don't give a shit about Jerome Powell, right? I don't give it personally, but I commend him for his leadership here and standing up and saying, no, I will not cave in to the bullying tactics of this White House. We need more of that. We need to see more of that, especially this year leading up to elections, to finally try and put some real restraint from Congress on this out of control madman wannabe emperor.
Well, I think we may be starting to see some of that. I think some of that is starting to come through. So Senator Tillis,
Yeah,
now he went on the record and said, "Look, I'm not sure what all this is about, but we're not going to allow this to happen. I mean, this is we're going to have to see a lot more
yeah.
because again, the Federal Reserve has gone to Congress, unlike what the president has done. He's not gone to Congress on anything. Congress is going to have to start pushing back, and there is again other signs too about." The war, about Venezuela and escalation in Venezuela, about what may happen there. Congress is starting to exert a little bit more there. The Greenland piece that amazingly only gets worse and worse as each day goes by. And we're starting to see some pushback on within the Department of Defense on this, as well as within Congress. So our hope is that people will start doing this. I find this another thing because again, the president in his continuous way of distraction away from some of the news events, he announced late, I think it was late on Friday or even maybe Saturday, that he was outraged by credit card companies having 20 to 30% interest rates on their credit cards. Like that's been the way it's been forever. I don't know where he just woke up and realized that. But he said in a True Social post that he's going to put a 10% cap this year. And so when he was challenged on that yesterday, he says on video, well, if they don't comply, they're breaking the law. There is no law. You like there's like nothing compels credit. This is again capitalism. This is free markets.
Um,
They can set the interest rates wherever they want as long as they're transparent about it. Because there's been, a lot of, notifications that have to go out on this to make it very clear what customers are signing up for. This is how this disclosure laws work, Andy.
yeah.
And so I don't like again, the president, I think, continues to lose his basis in reality. And we should start questioning his cognitive ability. He has no understanding of what the law is, Andy. So
I think he does know, Dave. I think what he likes to do is just he's throwing bullshit all over the place with his violent behavior towards
mhm.
everything America. He likes to come out and then play this paternalistic father figure and hey, I'm going to take care of the American people who are being wronged by the big banks and by healthcare. And sometimes he has a fair point. Maybe we should look at some things and say, okay, we want to change this or that. Like that's fine. But we don't need Big Daddy Trump to come and save us. Thank you, Father Trump, for watching out for us and protecting us. It's so much bullshit on issues. Again, like you said, Dave, healthcare has been fucked up forever. Credit card charges have been difficult forever. Like that's reality. We can talk about that. Congress can debate if they want to do something or not, if they want to affect the market in ways that isn't necessarily traditional American behavior. That's something Congress can discuss. But we don't need the president. We don't need Daddy Trump to look out for us when he does these things to try and get support from the American people to hide and masquerade the bullshit that he's actually conducting, the violence, the threats, the rhetoric, the stealing, the theft, the lies, the manipulation, the non-compliance with the law of this administration. It's just smoke and mirrors and bullshit. So thanks, Daddy Trump. Keep your creepy hands in your own pants and away from the rest of America. And please just leave us the fuck alone.
Well, I think that's a fair point, right? And it's like these are all distract. Like there's no plan behind this. It's the same thing as he put out some other things about the mortgage industry and the housing department. Like if he really wanted to do something, he could do something. But these are just he's throwing these things out with no real plan. Again, he then because I find it in this True Social post about the 10% on credit card cap, the interest rate cap on credit cards. He said affordability is back. Well, wait a second. I thought that affordability was a hoax, Andy.
Yeah.
And I thought, it just depends on what side he wakes up on and what he wants to say. This is just one big distraction. There's no real legislative plan or legislative agenda because he could have an impact in the housing market to make housing affordable and bring back that American dream that is being lost every day. He could, put in and work with financial institutions to put, activities on reasonable, interest rate caps. But again, he's not interested in doing that. He wants to go after these, foreign wars, and he wants to, poke bears where they don't need to be poked. It's just crazy, Andy. Just
Yeah.
crazy.
It's just bullshit, Dave. It's all just endless streams of bullshit. And he wants us to take the bait and buy in and be grateful for his, voice on some of these issues. You got to take the good with the bad. And on the net, it's a bunch of absolute nonsense bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Look, if he were to come in and run on a policy of that kind of stuff, I think a lot of people would get on it, but he's just all about Trump.
Yeah.
So, all right, I had a running segment on that, but we're not going to continue that any further. But Andy, I did want to mention, did you happen to watch the Golden Globes last night?
Not even for 30 seconds.
Not even for 30. I barely even knew that they were on, but they were on last night, and I guess they had a podcast category. I was disappointed we didn't get nominated, Andy.
I,
So
I think it was discussed, Dave, and I think they're looking at next year for us to really have a chance to come out there. So looking forward to the Nikki Glazer roasts of the podcast next year as they announce us as the winners.
yeah, but I think it's fascinating throughout because I've seen some snippets of it. But they roasting a lot of people there, especially CBS who hosted the podcast.
Yeah.
They went through an overhaul in their news department recently, and they've become more align with Fox News, I think, than they were, with maybe NBC or ABC, the other news channels. So they got roasted there a little bit. Then you had Mark Ruffalo put in and basically, and maybe this is a kind of feeling we can get a sense on because, my wife is pretty stressed out about what's been going on here. And Mark Ruffalo, I think, captured a little of that last night as well. He said, basically somebody was asking him like how does it feel to be out here with all the he's like it doesn't feel that good,
Yeah.
like the feeling around we had an individual who was murdered in the streets of Minnesota, uh, and um, and it's just not a great feeling. We have a president who's off the rails,
Yeah.
and like how like it feels weird to be celebrating. It feels weird in some respects to be watching football when all of this kind of crazy shit is going on. And there were a lot of protests and demonstrations. I think there are going to be more and more as we continue to go through here. But I mean, it is starting to seep into a lot of things. Like the elections being canceled in the midterms, that's not an unrealistic expectation at this point, Andy.
Well, first, Mark Ruffalo has been a voice for a lot of issues, and he's not scared to use his voice and his career to give voice to issues, and I commend him for that. As far as elections go, look, if this president could try and pull some bullshit together to deny
Yeah.
elections, like he could, and he might get support from some of his yes men in especially in some states, Louisiana and others. But at the end of the day, states run elections, and for all the pressure tactics and violence of ICE, the president's personal army, as we see them flooding Minnesota now to outnumber Minnesota's own state law enforcement numerically, you can't do that across this entire union. There's not enough people to do that, and there are not going to be enough people to do that come November. So while the president may want to deny elections, you will see governors in every blue state move forward with elections, and you will see governors in a number of red states. We've already seen pushback from a state like Oklahoma, and other governors said, "Hey, you're stepping into my territory here, Mr. President. to try and actually cancel elections. Not that this president might not try that, but the pushback would be severe. It would be challenged in the courts immediately, and the states would proceed with their elections. Votes will be cast. If there's an attempt to cancel elections, very many Democrat votes will be cast instead of Republican votes that may have otherwise gone the other way. And then it's a matter of how do you seat this new Congress? It will not go well for this country, certainly, nor for this party, the president's party, nor for this president. It'll put America in another significant crisis, a constitutional crisis, probably a physical crisis because of the asshole behavior of this administration. I don't think we'll get there. I'd like to think we won't get there. But if it does, I think we will see true leaders stand up and say, fuck no. And we will have elections in 2026, and we will elect new officials in 2026.
Yeah, look, I want to be very clear on my comments too. Like, I think they're at risk because I think the president's going to try to pull some shit.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll actually be canceled, but I do think we need to, as Americans, we need to start thinking like this is everything was in scope of the possible at this point in time, and we need to be prepared to act in terms of like letting in our voices, going to the ballot boxes and saying what we really feel and believe. But you're right, if this were to try to occur, the Republican Party, for all intents and purposes, would never survive that,
Yeah.
and it would be disastrous on all accounts. So interesting times for sure. But again, I encourage everyone to, we have within, this country rights to take up actions to be able to say we protest against these activities and we are lending our voice known. Get involved, get engaged is what I would say. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all
Thank you,
right,
Dave.
Andy. Crazy Monday, start to the Monday. Great football, continuous madness out of Washington, D.C. I guess that's what we've got this year so far. So,
That's, hey, start 2026 with quite a bang. It's not going to change. There's going to be more of it all year long. But thank goodness for now we can enjoy football while we deal with the chaos at hand. And Dave, look, it's winter, but spring is coming. The thaw is coming. The sun is coming. Things will continue to get better as we move forward. Like as Americans, as individuals, we have to keep looking forward and like not getting consumed by the endless amounts of bullshit coming out of Washington, D.C. We have to fight back, and Americans are fighting back, and Americans are celebrating great football. Americans are celebrating the things that truly make this nation great. So thanks for podcasting with me this morning, because obviously we're helping to keep America alive here.
yeah, and maybe next year we'll win the Golden Globe for the best podcast
I,
award.
I think the betting odds are already on none of us heard next. Yeah.
All right, Andy, let's also talk later this week about the movies coming up this year. So there's a lot of movies coming out. It's actually a pretty exciting year for movies
It
to
is.
come out. Let's talk about that and see if you're interested in watching and we'll get into the theater, Andy.
All
So,
right, I'm looking forward to it.
all right, Andy, with that, I will catch up with you next time.